had mentioned, Claire's my stepmom for those who are wondering, had mentioned a little bit about you owning some properties in California.
Yes, as indicated earlier, and what I'm glad you're doing this program. So obviously we didn't have this what they call this podcast broadcast. What they call this again?
It's a bit of a YouTube video slash podcast.
YouTube. Okay. Well, back when, not that I'm old or anything, we didn't have anything like this. We had what they call was PowerPoint. So they would take pictures, put a PowerPoint together, and we do record it, and then we would put it out. So what we're doing in San Diego, San Diego is a retired military town. So what happened when I was going to school, I found myself hanging around a lot of retirees, and that's how I got into the business of learning about real estate. So guys were telling me, hey, Seaman Fontenot, you need to quit, or Petty House of Fontenot, don't go out and buy these cars, you need to go buy a house. I'm like, dude, I want a car because I want the girls, man. So it was all about the cars and the girls.
Yep.
And I will never forget, it was a master chief. He was on active duty and he was hanging out with some guys, and his master chief was telling, hey, I got property. He was in San Diego and he said he had properties throughout California. And he brought properties while he was on active duty. Now, keep on, he's a master chief, he's an E9, and I was like an E5. So that's he has a lot of time in. And I remember someone told me that buy property. So I went to go talk to the master chief and he told me what he did. And I'm like, really? And I said, yeah. So I happened to be at the right place at the right time. And I always say it was by the grace of the Lord. Is I was renting an apartment using, I don't know if they call it BAQ and VHA now, but that's what we have back in San Diego. So I happened to go to a development area and he was building new homes, talk to the owner, and he saw I was in the military. And he said, hey, yeah, we have a special program from the military if you want to buy the townhome. I'm like nervous, scared, and I'm like, sure. So I was 23 years old, 24 years old. And I said, yeah, I'll go for it. So I used my VA, didn't know what it meant. Once again, no one taught me this. Yeah. I had to learn all this on my own. You have to get what they call a VA certificate. And if anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't done this, contact the VA and apply for your VA certificate, because that VA certificate is what you need when you want to go buy investment or real estate, basically. So I ended up going through the learning process to get the VA certificate, ended up buying my first property at 23 years old in San Diego with no money down. You just have to pay closing costs. So
and what year was this?
2000, a good point. That was 9/11.
Really?
9/11. Yeah, 9/11.
2001?
Yeah, 2001. I take that back. I was 25 years old. I was 25, 26 years old. It was 1990.
That's my age, yeah.
Yeah, so it was 2001. What happened was I put my name on the waiting list in calendar year 2000. And I forgot my name was on the waiting list. So they called me right before 9/11, say, hey, your name is up and are you ready to close? And we can go and pick out the colors and all that. And I was like, oh man, I forgot about it. I said, okay. So we went out, did the colors and everything. The loan company called me, said, hey, everything is good to go. We got your closing docs and you can come on 9/11 to sign the closing docs. This is before the incident happened. So I said, oh, okay, great. At that time, interest rates was at 6%, 8%. So when the 9/11 incident happened, the stock market just took a boom. Everything went down. Even the interest rates dropped. So when that happened, the finance guys didn't know what to do. They called me up and said, whoa, interest rates dropped down 3 points. You can close now or you can wait, and we don't know if it's going to go down more. And I'm like, no, let's close now, because I was looking at how much I was paying. I didn't care about the interest rates. They said it's going to reduce your monthly payments about $200. I'm like, yeah. So because I really didn't know about the interest rate. I wasn't focusing on that. I was looking at how much was my take-home pay. Yeah. So I was very fortunate. I ended up buying a 9/11. It was a 2-bedroom townhome for $150,000 on 9/11.
Wow. In San Diego?
San Diego. And then 2 years later, that property there, it was worth $225,000.
Wow.
So what had happened, and then keep in mind, me knowing about financing, because now you have to live in it for 2 out of the 5 years so you don't get hit on tax liability.
Yep.
So I didn't know all that back then. So I had to learn it by, life experience and talking to the right people. So as being a veteran, I was able to get that piece of property, then had built up equity out of that property because I was living in it. And then when I built up equity, I learned about investments. And then me, once again, going to school, talking to investors. And once again, that's what the value of the education. So I learned about commercial real estate. So that's how I was able to go from primary home into the real estate as an investor. So I was able to start building from there.
So did you end up selling that property?
The first property I ended up selling, yes, because I lived in it 2 out of the 5 years, no capital gain. So the other properties I was able to purchase, I still have those properties there, and I did what they call a 1031 exchange. So I still have those properties. Is ever you play the game of Monopoly, how you go from the small house to the big house? That's what life was like on the real estate world. So the first property I purchased with the VA, lived in it. Then the key factor is called equity. Because whenever you buy assets, you want to buy assets that's going to appreciate, not depreciate. Good example, when I had the guy who told me, don't go buy a car. I'm like, why not? You get girls. He said, well, a car doesn't appreciate. And of course, I didn't understand what he was talking about, appreciating, depreciation, talking about amortization. But he was giving me a real life experience while I was in school, because we were talking about this and discussing this in school. But in school, you just want to get the A and pass the class, and that's all you want to focus on.
Talk to the girl,
Yeah. But what he was doing, he was giving me real world experience with what I was learning in class. And that's what I learned about return on investments. And that's what I learned about equity. So to answer your question, I sold the first home, no capital gains, but I had equity, and I ended up buying other homes, and I just kept building from there.
And I'm assuming you're currently still building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
So
because once you have the equity, you just want to keep taking that equity and keep building, so you can actually have what they call a real estate portfolio.
Yep. Are you just reinvesting that income that you're getting? Okay.
Yes. That's the game. The game plan is, once you have the investment properties, you reinvest it. The objective is to pay off as much as you can on the loan, and also give you time to buy other equities to appreciate in value.
Yep.
Because what you're looking for in the long term is appreciate the asset in value. And then once again, when you rent out property, you want to make sure you got the positive